Chapter 1. It was a rainy day at Yumanosaki Idol High School. It was after school, and very far from lunchtime. In fact, lunchtime had seemed like forever ago to Adonis, who was beside himself with hunger. He felt like he could eat anything right now, and he meant anything. Ignoring his state of disrepair, he went to the gathering his unit Undead was having. When he opened the door, he saw nobody showed up once again. Well, Koga came in right after him. Nobody showed up if Koga was nobody. "Hey," Koga said as he shuffled in from the doorway. "Hello, Ogami," Adonis said back to Koga. "It seems we're missing the presence of our upperclassmen yet again today." Koga walked to one of the folding chairs in the room and sat on it as angrily as you could sit on a chair. "I'm getting real fucking sick of this. I hate this fucking unit. I hate those two so damn much," Koga said, but he looked down at the ground in a way where Adonis knew he didn't mean what he was saying completely and he was just vulnerable and a bit sad. Adonis was ripped from his train of thought when his stomach let out a loud, awkward growl. Koga noticed it immediately, and Koga couldn't let an elephant stay in any room. "You hungry there, huh?" Koga said in a way that sounded a bit accusatory. "Well, yes, I am," Adonis admitted to him. "I had a light lunch, and it was long ago." Adonis could see an expression flicker on Koga's face that seemed amused, but in a way where he seemed to have an idea, as if a light bulb was supposed to go above his head. He got up from his chair and walked towards Adonis. He got close, but not really close, just close enough for two friends to have a friendly, non-threatening conversation. "You're hungry." "I'm bored and pissed off." Koga trailed off mid-sentence to look around the room. It almost seemed as if he lost the nerve to speak his mind and was looking for a way out, before his eyes snapped back towards his fellow unit member. "I don't know if you ever heard of this thing or not. I can't answer that unless I know what it is," Adonis said back to Koga. Koga put on his usually irritated, impatient look. "I was getting to it all right. Let a guy finish his thought." He looked away again and scratched the back of his head, and Adonis could swear Koga's face was getting flushed with red. "Anyway, have you ever heard of this thing called vore?" "Vore?" Adonis repeated after Koga. "I haven't. I don't know what that is. Is it unique to Japan?" "Well, no. I guess it'll be kind of a pain to describe it to you fully. But the basis of it is one person eating another person." Koga paused. "Whole." Adonis's expression hardly changed while he was parsing this new information. "Ogami, do you want me to vore you?" Koga was shocked. He obviously wasn't expecting Adonis to be so blunt about it, even though he really should have. And that's kind of how Adonis is. When you put it that way, he was trying desperately to stammer his way to a complete sentence. "Yeah, that's what I'm getting at." Adonis smiled softly at him. "You'll have to teach me. I'm new at it." Adonis paused. "Have you done it before, Ogami?" "No, but God, I've always wanted to be eaten. If I had tried it before now, I'd already have been digested by someone else." "Yes, of course. I don't know how I didn't think of that." There was a short, awkward silence before Koga broke it by loudly using his ability to shrink himself at will. "Wow, Ogami." Adonis bent to the ground to scoop his new, small Koga in his hands. "How did you do that?" Koga looked proud of his accomplishment, posing confidently. "It's my family's power. It's recessive. No one's seen it before but you." "When you're this size, it almost feels cruel to eat you," Adonis says. "I hardly have it in me to hurt weak, small creatures." "Weak? Well, that doesn't matter here." Koga huffed loudly at Adonis. "I can't undo this, so you can't turn back now. I never even said it would harm me." "Won't you get dissolved in my stomach acid like you said?" "I hardly consider that harm. Ogami, it will certainly kill you." "Who cares about the details? Just put me in your damn mouth before I fucking leave." Koga held his arms out and closed his eyes shut as hard as he could. Adonis couldn't help but have second thoughts. But it didn't matter. It was just like Koga said. Nothing mattered in this moment, except vore. Vore is all that matters. Adonis did his best to unhinge his jaw and shoved Koga into his mouth. He could hear faint shouts of "woohoo" as Koga fell into Adonis' stomach. It was the last he ever heard of him. But what Adonis lost in a friend, he gained in sustenance. Chapter 2. Is this real? Could that really have just happened? How could I go through with that? Adonis could feel 1,001 questions welling up in his mind as he held his full stomach in his hands. Koga's excitement for his proposed task left Adonis little time to think about the consequences that would come as a result. Koga was in his stomach, being digested like meat. His exclamations of joy was the last thing he would ever hear from him. Adonis tried his best not to be shaken up by the event, reassuring himself it was in both of their best interests. He already knows Koga practically begged him to eat him, but the regret lingered still. He could only think about how much he was going to miss him, before the sound of the club room door opening tore him from his depressing train of thought. "Yo, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I got caught up in something, but I'm sure you can understand." Kaoru walked in the room without facing anyone as he flopped his bag on the nearest table. He turned around and all he saw was Adonis, standing there by himself, holding his stomach. "Hakaze-senpai, hello. I'm glad to see you." Adonis realized how abnormal his stance was and shifted to a normal pose, ignoring the situation with his stomach. Kaoru ran an awkward hand through his hair. I guess you're the only one here, huh, Adonis-kun?" "No, that isn't true. Not at all." A loud creaking sound filled the air as Rei's coffin opened slowly and dramatically. "It's rude to exclude me like that when I'm right here, you know." "Sakuma-senpai, how could you possibly have gotten there when Ogami and I checked on your coffin earlier?" "I would rather not be questioned by the dog-eater of all people." Rei rose from his coffin so he could properly get at Adonis' face, which was currently twisting with a mixture of guilt and confusion. "How could you do that to him?" "I thought you liked each other." Hey, I know the guy likes meat, but eating dogs? You can't just accuse him of something like that, right? His accusation is not baseless, Hakaze-senpai. "I ate him," Adonis said as he crossed his arms, guilt still covering his grim face. He was small and defenseless, and yet I ate him whole. Everyone had something to say. Everyone had questions. But a silence hung over the room nonetheless. It felt like it lasted a lifetime, but it couldn't have been any longer than a single minute before Kaoru burst. "Does anyone want to tell me what's happening? How can you two be so quiet? Did he just say he ate Koga-kun?" "That would be exactly what he did. I am a witness to the crime. Even though I did not actually see it, I heard the entire event." "Why didn't you stop him, Sakuma-san? How could you let him eat another guy like that?" "I didn't want to interrupt them. It seemed like fun. My doggy shrunk himself and everything. He was so thrilled. So I'll have to ask you to lower your voice, Kaoru-kun. Or else..." "Or else what? You're going to vore me? I can't shrink. I obviously can't be eaten. Get real." Rei rushed past Adonis, grabbing Kaoru. "Learn your lesson, Kaoru-kun. Vore has no limits." "Sakuma-senpai!" Adonis watched in horror as Rei picked up Kaoru and started to shove his whole body in his mouth. It brought him back to when he was swallowing Koga, but Koga was small, and he was still difficult even with that. He couldn't comprehend how Rei had already fit half of Kaoru's whole body down his throat, but it was only getting worse with every passing second. Before he knew it, he couldn't even see Kaoru anymore. He was gone, lost to the confines of Rei's body. Rei let out a long burp, followed by a content sigh as he rested his hands on his enlarged stomach. That was fun. I wish I could eat every little annoyance like that. Adonis was immobilized, trying desperately to process the sight he just saw. He couldn't even pinch himself to try and wake up from what he was now convinced was a bad dream. "Adonis-kun, don't look at me like that. You know how it is. We've both been down this road now." Rei sat down on the nearest folding chair, a loud sound escaping on impact. Adonis tried to ignore it. It had already happened, and there was nothing to be done about it now. "Sakuma-senpai, it's just us now, isn't it? What will happen to undead?" "Idols are nothing if not replaceable. 2-person units are not at all bad, in the worst-case scenario. I'm sure we would do well on our own now, considering we have so much in common," Rei said as he patted his enlarged Kaoru-filled stomach. Adonis, unable to accept his new reality, desperately continued to wait until he woke up.